My parents were going out. This was a big deal. I was 10 years old. My older brother Mark was 14. He was in charge for the very first time. I felt so grown up. No babysitter, just me and Mark. The house was all ours for the night. I ran through the living room, my socks sliding on the polished wood floors. I was the king of the castle. I could do anything I wanted. The entire house felt like a giant playground, waiting for me to explore its secrets and claim it as my own kingdom for a few precious hours. The freedom was amazing. I could eat all the junk food I wanted. I could watch any movie I chose. Mark didn't care. He was busy in his room, probably listening to loud music on his headphones. The house was a two-story colonial. It felt huge without my parents there. Every room seemed bigger. The hallways seemed longer. The silence was a strange, new sound. It was the sound of complete and total independence. I grabbed a bag of chips from the pantry and a soda from the fridge, feeling like a rebel. As the sun began to set, the house took on a different feel. The familiar rooms started to look strange in the evening light. Long shadows stretched across the floor like dark bony fingers. The grandfather clock in the hall ticked loudly, tick-tock, tick-tock. Each tick seemed to echo through the empty space. I sat on the big couch feeling small. The excitement of being alone started to mix with a little bit of nervousness. The house was settling down for the night, and its usual creaks and groans sounded more mysterious than ever before. I decided to make a fortress of pillows and blankets in front of the television. This was my command center. From here, I would rule my kingdom. I had my snacks. I had the remote control. I was ready for a night of adventure. I called out to Mark just to make sure he was still there. "Hey, Mark, I'm watching a movie." His muffled voice came from upstairs. "Okay, whatever. Don't bother me." That was fine with me. I had the whole downstairs to myself. The night was young, and I was the master of my domain. I flipped through the channels. I wanted something scary, something that would make my heart race. I landed on a horror movie marathon. Perfect. The first movie was about a haunted house. A family moved into an old mansion. Of course it was filled with ghosts. The ghosts would slam doors and whisper in the dark. I pulled my blanket fortress a little tighter around me. The movie was cheesy, with bad special effects, but it was still scary. The thought of unseen things moving around a house was starting to feel a little too real. Outside, the wind started to howl. It whistled through the old window frames. A tree branch scraped against the side of the house. Scrop! Scrop! It sounded like long fingernails scratching on a chalkboard. I tried to ignore it. It was just the wind. It was just an old house. But the movie was putting ideas in my head. Every little sound made me jump. Was that the wind, or was it something else? The line between the movie on the screen and the reality of my empty house began to blur. The movie showed a scene where a little boy was alone in his room. He heard a noise downstairs. He thought it was his parents, but it wasn't. It was a ghost. My heart started to beat faster. I looked toward the dark hallway that led to the kitchen. It was a long, black tunnel. I could not see the end of it. I told myself it was silly. I was being a baby, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The house didn't feel like my kingdom anymore. It felt like a trap. I ate my chips nervously. The crunching sound was too loud in the quiet room. I tried to focus on the movie, but my ears were listening for other things. I was listening for the sounds of the house, the creak of a floorboard upstairs, the hum of the refrigerator, the groan of the water pipes. These were normal sounds. I heard them every day, but tonight they sounded different. They sounded sinister. They sounded like they were trying to tell me something. They were trying to tell me that I was not alone. The second movie started. This one was worse. It was about a home invasion. A monster that looked like a man broke into a house. He didn't make a sound, he just appeared in the shadows. He moved silently from room to room. The family in the movie had no idea he was there. They were laughing and talking, completely unaware of the danger lurking just a few feet away. My palms started to sweat. This was not about ghosts or ghouls. This was about a real person. A real monster. That was so much scarier. I thought about the locks on our doors. Did my dad lock the back door? I was pretty sure he did. He always did. But what if he forgot? Just this once. I imagined a dark figure testing the doorknob, finding it unlocked, slipping inside without a sound. The idea sent a shiver down my spine. I suddenly felt very exposed. The big windows in the living room were like giant dark eyes staring in at me. Anyone could be out there, watching me from the darkness of the yard. I muted the television. The silence was deafening. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. I strained my ears, listening for anything out of the ordinary. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The wind had died down. The tree branch was no longer scraping against the window. It was as if the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. I wished Mark would come downstairs. I wished my parents would come home. The fun of being alone was completely gone. Now I was just scared. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I was letting a stupid movie get to me. I was a big kid now. I was 10 years old. I wasn't afraid of the dark. But I was. I really, really was. I grabbed the remote and turned the volume back up, hoping the noise from the TV would drown out my fearful thoughts. But it didn't work. The movie monster was now creeping up the stairs. The family was asleep. They were helpless. And I felt just as helpless as they were. That's when I heard it. A real sound. Not from the movie, not from the wind. It came from the kitchen. It was a soft thump, thump, like something heavy had been set down on the counter. My blood ran cold. I froze, holding my breath. My eyes darted toward the dark hallway. Was it Mark? Maybe he came down for a snack. I thought it had to be Mark. Who else could it be? I waited, listening for his familiar footsteps or the sound of the refrigerator door opening, but there was nothing, only silence. Then, I heard another sound. A soft, shuffling noise, like someone dragging their feet on the tile floor. Shuffle, shuffle. It was slow and deliberate. It did not sound like Mark. Mark always stomped around like an elephant. This was quiet. This was careful. This was the sound of someone trying not to be heard. My mind raced. Maybe it was just the house settling. Maybe it was the ice maker. I tried to find a logical explanation. Any explanation that wasn't the monster from the movie. But the sounds continued. I heard a drawer open. A slow, quiet creak. Then, the faint clinking of metal, like silverware being shifted around. Clink, clink, clank. Why would Mark be in the silverware drawer? He never cooked. He never did the dishes. He had no reason to be in there. A wave of pure panic washed over me. This was wrong. This was all wrong. My fortress of blankets and pillows no longer felt safe. It felt like a flimsy hiding spot that could be brushed away in an instant. My heart was hammering against my ribs. It felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. I wanted to scream for Mark, but my throat was tight. I couldn't make a sound. What if the person in the kitchen heard me? What would they do? I was trapped. I was alone on the couch, and a stranger was moving around in my kitchen. The scary movie was no longer on the screen. It was happening right here. It was happening to me. I was the boy in the movie, and the monster was downstairs. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit here and wait. My survival instinct kicked in. I slowly, carefully, slid off the couch. I crawled on my hands and knees, staying low to the ground. The carpet felt soft under my trembling hands. I moved away from the television, away from the light. My goal was the staircase. If I could get upstairs to Mark's room, I would be safe. Mark would know what to do. He was older and stronger. He would protect me. He had to. I crawled toward the hallway that led to the stairs. It was the same hallway that led to the kitchen. My heart pounded with every inch I moved. I was so scared the person in the kitchen would hear me. I could still hear the soft shuffling sounds. They were closer now. They seemed to be moving out of the kitchen and into the dining room, which was right next to the hall. I flattened myself against the floor, trying to make myself invisible. The grandfather clock in the hall began to chime. It was 10 o'clock. The chimes were so loud, so shocking. Then, I saw it. A shadow. It fell across the entrance to the hallway. It was long and tall. It was the shadow of a person, a man. He was standing just around the corner in the dining room. I could see his silhouette against the faint light coming from a street lamp outside. He was standing perfectly still, as if he was listening. Was he listening for me? Did he know I was here? I held my breath, praying he wouldn't look into the hall. My body was frozen in terror. The shadow moved. It turned. It was coming my way. The figure stepped into the hallway. I could see him more clearly now. It was a man, but it wasn't my dad. He was wearing dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled down low. He was tall and thin. He took a slow step into the hall, and then another. He was moving toward the living room, toward the couch where I had been just moments ago. He was walking right toward me. I had to hide. Now. The only place to go was under the small table next to the staircase. It was covered with a long tablecloth that reached the floor. It was a terrible hiding spot, but it was my only choice. I scrambled under it, pulling the cloth down to hide my feet. I squeezed my eyes shut. I could hear his footsteps on the hardwood floor of the hall. They were slow and quiet. Click, clack, click, clack. Each step was like a drumbeat of doom, getting closer and closer. He was almost here. He stopped right in front of the table. I could see his shoes under the edge of the tablecloth. They were old, dirty work boots, not Mark's sneakers, not my dad's dress shoes. They were the shoes of a stranger who was standing less than 2 feet away from me. I could hear him breathing. It was a shallow, raspy sound. I tried to make myself smaller, pressing myself against the wall. Please don't look under the table. Please just go away. Please. He stood there for what felt like an eternity. What was he doing? Was he looking around the living room? Did he see the empty pillow fort? Did he know someone was home? Then, he turned and started walking toward the stairs. My heart leaped into my throat. He was going upstairs, where Mark was. Mark, with his headphones on, completely unaware. The intruder took the first step. The old wood creaked under his weight. Then the second step. Creak. Then the third. Creak. He was going to find my brother. A sudden, fierce protectiveness surged through me, stronger than my fear. I couldn't let him hurt Mark. I had to do something. I had to make a noise. I had to warn him. As the man's foot landed on the fourth step, I did the only thing I could think of. I let out a scream. It wasn't a loud scream. It was a choked, terrified squeak. But it was enough. The footsteps stopped. The man on the stairs froze. And then, I heard another sound. A loud, angry yell from upstairs. "Hey, who's down there?" It was Mark. He had heard me. Everything happened very fast after that. The man on the stairs cursed under his breath. He turned and ran. He didn't come back down the stairs. I heard him run down the hall, back toward the kitchen. Then I heard the back door slam shut. A moment later, Mark came thundering down the stairs. He flipped on all the lights. The house was suddenly flooded with brightness, chasing all the scary shadows away. "What's going on? What was that noise?" he yelled, his eyes wide. I couldn't speak. I just pointed a trembling finger from under the table. Mark pulled the tablecloth away and saw me huddled there, crying. "What happened?" he asked, his voice softer now. "There was a man," I sobbed. "A man in the house." Mark's face went pale. He immediately ran to the phone and called the police. Then he called our parents. While we waited, he checked all the doors and windows. The back door, the one that led from the kitchen to the backyard, was wide open. The lock had been broken. The police arrived quickly. They looked like giants in their dark uniforms. They asked me a lot of questions. What did the man look like? What was he wearing? What did he sound like? I told them everything I could remember. The dark clothes, the baseball cap, the dirty boots, the raspy breathing. One of the officers patted me on the shoulder. "You were very brave," he said. "You did the right thing by hiding and making a noise." But I didn't feel brave. I just felt small and scared. My parents rushed home, their faces filled with worry. My mom hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. My dad talked to the police with a grim expression. The rest of the night was a blur of flashing lights, serious adult conversations, and the feeling that my world had been turned upside down. They never caught the man. He was just a shadow who had slipped into our home and then vanished back into the night. He took my mom's purse from the kitchen counter, but he also took something else. He took my feeling of safety. That night wasn't the only time I learned that the world could be a scary place. Another memory, from when I was even younger, also taught me a hard lesson about trust. We had a neighbor, Mr. Henderson. He was an old man who lived alone in the house next door. He always seemed friendly. He would wave to us when we played in the yard. He gave us candy on Halloween. My parents said he was a nice, lonely old man. We were told to be polite to him. He was a familiar face, a part of our neighborhood. One afternoon I was playing in our front yard. I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. Mr. Henderson called me over to his fence. "Hey there, little fella," he said, smiling. "I have some new puppies in my garage. Do you want to come see them?" Puppies! I loved puppies. Of course I wanted to see them. I started to run toward his gate, excited. It seemed like a perfectly normal and friendly invitation. He was our neighbor, after all. What could possibly be wrong with looking at some puppies? But my mom was watching from the front window. She saw me talking to him. She came rushing out the front door. "No!" she yelled. Her voice was sharp and scared. It was a tone I had never heard from her before. She ran to me and grabbed my arm, pulling me back toward our house. "You are never, ever to go into a neighbor's house alone," she said, her voice shaking. "I don't care who it is. You do not go anywhere with anyone without asking me or your dad first. Do you understand?" I didn't understand at the time. I was just confused and upset that I couldn't see the puppies. Mr. Henderson just shrugged and went back inside his house. Later, my parents explained. They told me that even people who seem nice can sometimes be dangerous. They told me that my body was my own, and that no one was allowed to touch me or take me somewhere without my permission. I learned that familiar didn't always mean safe. It was another crack in the foundation of my simple, trusting view of the world. Those 2 nights changed me. The night of the intruder shattered the illusion that my home was a fortress. It taught me that locks can be broken and that monsters are real. They don't have claws or fangs. They look like regular people. They can walk into your kitchen on a normal Wednesday night. For years after that, I had trouble sleeping. Every creak of the house made my heart pound. I would lie in bed, staring at my bedroom door, convinced that a shadow would appear in the doorway at any moment. The incident with the neighbor taught me a different, but related lesson. It taught me to be cautious of people, even people I thought I knew. Trust was no longer something I gave away freely. It had to be earned. The world was no longer a big, friendly playground. It was a place with hidden dangers and people who might not have good intentions. The simple, black and white world of my early childhood was gone forever. It had been replaced by shades of gray and a constant, low-level hum of anxiety. These experiences forced me to grow up faster than I should have. They made me more aware, more cautious, and maybe a little less joyful. I learned to check the locks on the doors before I went to bed. I learned to pay attention to my surroundings when I was outside. I learned that a gut feeling, that little voice in your head that says something is wrong, is something you should always listen to. It's a survival instinct, and mine had been sharpened by fear. Now, as an adult, I understand that the world is not an entirely scary place. There is still so much good. But I have never forgotten those lessons. Safety is not a guarantee. It is something you have to be mindful of. And trust, once broken, is very hard to repair. The night the man came into my house, he didn't just steal a purse. He stole the peaceful, blissful ignorance of a 10-year-old boy who believed he was the king of a castle that could never fall. I learned that night that every castle has a weak spot,